Well, that was a bit better last night, wasn't it? A bit of positivity at last. We were being positive yesterday, Ryan. I think
Mhm.
we kick-started the positivity, and hopefully, all you watching this are feeling a wee bit better about things. I know the game didn't really matter. We didn't qualify for any European competition after Christmas. We knew that already, and that was like yesterday's or the day before's fault. The first five match days' fault. Last night was a chance for the team to redeem themselves to an extent, and they did it. And we're all feeling a wee bit better. You got a wee spring in your step today, Ryan.
Definitely, yeah. Had a spring my step last night, walking home from the game as well. But yeah, really quite positive, especially the way it ended. You can't beat a goal in stoppage time or near enough stoppage time. Yeah, it's a real shot in the arm, and hopefully it's the shot in the arm that Celtic need ahead of the rest of the season. Could be the thing that springboards our season forward a wee bit to get back on track, certainly domestically. But always good to end with a win. It's good to break that record that we were talking about quite extensively yesterday. The fact that they hadn't won since Anderlecht and at home since Ajax. So if you're going to do it against any team, why not break the record that was set when you beat Ajax and beat Feyenoord, one of their rivals? So yeah, all positive here. Bit of a mixed performance, I would say. They had to show different levels in order to get that win, but at the same time, they showed character to go and get the win. And yeah, plenty of positives to talk about today, which is really good because we've been speaking about a lot of negatives recently. So there's definitely a bit more positivity about the place.
Yes, plenty to talk about. 100% winning record in our last match in Europe. I've not seen BT, sorry, not BT, what are they called now? TNT or
TNT.
whoever, or BBC Sport on Twitter. I've not seen them tweeting about that. Brendan Rodgers has actually won 100% of his last one match in Europe. They're all the negative headlines. I think we'll make up a wee graphic and just display that. Yeah, you can see the bottom of your screen. Subscribe to the Celtic Way website. £4 for 4 months, or £18 for a year. Support top quality journalism covering the club you love. Visit www.celticway.co.uk /subscribe for more information. What was last night like, Ryan, as in terms of the atmosphere and stuff like that?
A lot of people were talking down the atmosphere. I seen online, and I thought the atmosphere was pretty good for the most part, especially before the game. It was a dead rubber, but somebody forgot to tell both the home and away fans last night that it was a dead rubber. As I thought they did everything in their power to ensure that it wasn't going to be one of those damp squibs of a game. Feyenoord came in their numbers. Their fate had already been sealed. They know they're going to play in Europa League after Christmas, but what a crowd they brought! What a noise as well. You could hear some Feyenoord fans in the home end, and that's a different story altogether. But that away crowd that they had, it's the most condensed crowd you've seen of away supporters this season, and it was an incredible noise that they made throughout the game. But I thought it was a good atmosphere. I don't. I know a lot of people were talking it down and saying it was a bit of a library, but I thought the crowd got up for it when they needed to get up for it. Maybe that didn't come across on the television, but it was never like eerily silent or anything. I've always thought there was a good atmosphere to it, which I think the Champions League the atmosphere makes itself in those nights. A midweek game under the lights. You're playing against one of Europe's top teams or one of the top teams in Europe or the domestic league, and yeah, I thought it was a really really good atmosphere. So from where I was sitting, I didn't see the library atmosphere or anything like that. I thought it was quite a good atmosphere. I may be wrong. That might be me with green tinted glasses or green tinted earplugs or whatever. But I thought it was a pretty good atmosphere.
I'm not
I,
sure
I,
that works as well as the green
no, no,
tinted
no.
glasses.
I know. I tried it. Tried it. It's a trial and error system. This.
Yeah, it's early in the day for you, but we'll let you away with it. I was watching the game and it was obviously early here, and I was struggling with the Bon Slippy came on when the winner went in, and I was like, why have that come on? Then it was pointed out to me by someone on Twitter that it was the lager,
Yeah.
which is very clever. I mean, they've clearly the Celtic Park DJ has had that one ready for him, scoring a goal, because it was on very quickly after he netted. The ball was barely in the net, and they had that wonderful tune playing. Yeah, I thought it was a good night. The atmosphere, yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, I was obviously watching it in telly here, and the majority of the noise I heard was clearly Dutch chanting.
Mm-hmm.
I think I heard a few Celtic songs from time to time, but it did sound to me certainly like they were making a lot of noise. And I would certainly say that's the biggest away support we've seen at Celtic Park in a fair amount of time, certainly in European competition. Because if I'm thinking back to recent teams that have come, and I know COVID's kind of played a part, and we've kind of been we've drawn some teams that don't have huge away support. Seems like Real Madrid, who brought like a smaller support than Livingston, you may remember, despite being probably the biggest club in the world and stuff like that. But last night was probably the first time in a good few years that we'd had that kind of full corner, 3,000 away fans, absolutely packed, and obviously some scattered around the stadium as well. It did get me thinking about this whole allocation debate with the derby. And I think, given where we're at with that, without going into all that, the European allocation that people are talking about, if that is a solution to give 5% of the stadium, we get 5% of Ibrox, they get 5% when they come to Celtic Park. Totally. I think that would work quite well, because I thought it was a good atmosphere last night, and that was the only point I wanted to make there. But in general, what about the game? I thought it was an alright performance. I'm kind of not wanting to go massively overboard on it. I was delighted with the win. I'm delighted with the heart the team showed. Delighted with Joe Hart as well. I thought he had a really good game. But yeah, I think we can play far better than that, to be honest. I thought there was a fair bit of slackness, but I do take into account when you look at the team that actually started that match, there are players there that I don't expect to ever play a European match again for us. I think there's probably 3 or 4, 5 in that starting lineup last night that I would be very surprised. I mean, I don't think Joe Hart will play a European match for us again. But I kind of think Stephen Welsh, we can come on to him, he was good last night, but I kind of feel that he probably won't. I think Mikey Johnson probably won't play a European match. There's others in there as well. So I thought generally, all things considered, given the injuries we have, given the dire recruitment in the summer, the team did well to win that match. And to be honest, I don't care massively about the performance. We got the win, monkey off the back, etc. And it was a dramatic way to do it as well. How did you celebrate the winning goal? It wasn't quite like clambering over your mate type scenes, but it must have been all right.
It wasn't Julian against Lazio, put it that way, but it was a good header from Lagerbielke.
Reminded me of Julian against Lazio, given the timing in that, in a header, obviously, yeah.
It didn't. It felt slightly like a snatch and grab given the performance, but at the same time, it was quite poetic in that sense that Celtic have played better in this Champions League group stage and get beat. So I like the fact that Celtic have found a way to win ugly in the game, and really. But the goal was anything but ugly. That's the thing, Matt O'Reilly's assist for that goal was just tremendous. I called him a clutch player. They use that in basketball terms, but he definitely is. He comes up in the clutch. He's always there in the big moments. He's been doing it all season, and he did it again with that tremendous assist to Lagerbielke. I've got to be honest, when I was half celebrating, half thinking, what am I going to do for the instant analysis here? Because I'd already written it with the thought in my head that Celtic were going to draw the game, so I had to rewrite a couple of things. But that's just it's just the cons of doing the job while you're at the game. But, I didn't need to write too much. I needed to take out a Lagerbielke a bit because I was talking about Lagerbielke in my Welsh point. But, delighted for him. Delighted he got his moment, regardless of what happens for the rest of his Celtic career. He'll always have that moment. And the fact is, Celtic have already kind of recouped his transfer fee already with that one goal. He's kind of paid for himself in that regard. But yeah, I thought there was a good amount of celebrations to be had with that goal. People realised that, it was effectively, there wasn't really anything riding on the game, but it was a shot in the arm that Celtic needed, especially in Europe. And they stopped the rot at the end of the day. And I think Brendan Rodgers will be delighted with that. The players will be delighted for that. And I think you'll see a difference going into Saturday, both from the supporters and the playing staff and the coaching staff as well. There'll be a bit of a spring in their step going into Saturday against Hearts. Maybe a wee bit of a rejuvenation after kind of falling apart at Rugby Park on Sunday. It's good to get that quick win right off the bat, especially in Europe, and hopefully that can go on to more domestic matters in a couple of days' time.
Yeah, because I think like the way the game went last night and kind of having the victory kind of snatched away from us, or it seemed that way, and then going up the other end of the park, although it was a few minutes later, and getting that winner, like that was kind of almost the perfect way to win it. I mean, don't get me wrong, if we'd won it like 3-4-0, it would have been probably kind of better and probably a better performance. But I think winning it that way last night was kind of the perfect way. Like, because when Feyenoord equalised, it was like things were threatening to turn again. And I think even if it had finished as a draw, it would have been kind of more, would all have been feeling quite kind of negative again, because it was just the way we conceded that equaliser was really kind of slack and disappointing. And let's not forget, Feyenoord had chances after the goal, and it kind of was all threatening to become one of those horrendous nights. And if we'd have lost that again, it would have been a bit of a sickener, as much as people were saying, there was nothing really to be gained from the match last night. We could have lost more, I think, and we could have been even more of a downer. I think the fact that we won the game was massive, and it was a great moment. It's made by Matt O'Reilly. I mean, it's a great ball, first of all, from Alistair Johnson. I don't think that should be forgotten. But the ball from O'Reilly is just sensational. It's right on the money. And like, I was kind of laughing. I was thinking, if Lagerbielke had missed that, I wouldn't have been on this video today. We'd probably have just folded the channel and the website, because it just it just wouldn't have been worth it anymore if he'd put that one wide or over the bar or whatever. He couldn't miss, but he was in the right place to do it. The point I wanted to make, O'Reilly, for me, when you look at the real quality moments that we've had in that group stage campaign, and there weren't too many of them, but there were certainly more than the previous, last season. The two main ones were both Matt O'Reilly. The moment last night, the cross for Lagerbielke, was a sensational cross. I mean, I know it's a thing people say, but if any player does that, or a top player, Kevin De Bruyne, or I don't know, Jude Bellingham or someone like that, that's clipped up and all of that stuff, it was brilliant. And also his pass for Kyogo's goal in the home game against Atletico Madrid. That was the other really quality thing we did in the group stage. And that, for me, the fact they both came from Matt O'Reilly is kind of fitting. And for me, we'll wait and see how the summer goes, wait and see how the winter goes first, but certainly next summer. But he's a player we have to try and hold on to for another Champions League campaign, a third crack at it for him. I think he'd be a vital player for us, because he's only getting better. He may want to leave in the summer. I'd hope that he'd stick around, because he's class. And those two moments, that pass for Kyogo against Atletico and the cross last night for the Lagerbielke goal, were both brilliant. The other two kind of good moments came from Luis Palma, I thought, not last night, but the goal against Atletico Madrid, that finish, I thought was a bit of quality, and his goal against Lazio that was disallowed was the other. So he's another player, I think, bit of a strange player. I didn't actually think he was great last night, but he has that kind of Champions League box office factor, the X factor, I guess. So I think those two, we need to have them in the team next year for the Champions League.
Yeah, I think we need them, but at the same time, it's easier said than done, because I think the vultures will be circling for Matt O'Reilly, to be honest with you. I think that's 3 assists, because he got the assist, quite a similar assist against Lazio as well, I remember.
Yeah.
So
I was going to include that. I mean, it was still good, but it wasn't quite at the level of either of the other two. But
he's our most creative player. He's Celtic's most creative player in the Champions League, and a lot of these teams will watch what a player does at the highest level against good opposition. Matt O'Reilly's doing it now. He's now a full Danish international. The way things are going, I think he'll get called up for the Denmark squad going into the Euros as well, so he might play a part in that. If that happens, then I might be resigned to the fact that Celtic might have to lose him. But the only positive that comes from that, and there is only one, Celtic will get a record fee for Matt O'Reilly. They'll break their 25 million for Matt O'Reilly, in my opinion. I think he's that good. He's just a joy to watch, and he's went up 2 or 3 levels under Brendan Rodgers, not just the 1 or 2 that we might have expected him to do, because Brendan Rodgers is good with working with attacking midfielders. Look at Maddison, look at Coutinho, look at Armstrong from his first spell at Celtic, Rogic as well, improved under Brendan Rodgers. Matt O'Reilly's just improved 3 or 4 levels. I think he's Celtic's player of the season so far. Look at the goals, look at the assists. He's done it in Europe as well. If you can keep this going, it's going to be very, very difficult to keep a hold of him. The one thing that I do like is that I seen on Instagram, he posted on his story saying "my club." He's talking about Celtic being his club. I'm like, if you feel like that, Matt O'Reilly, then stay for another couple of seasons, really hone your talent. Unfortunately, I think that might be taken out of Celtic's hands in the summer. Not to sound negative or anything like that after such a good performance, but he's just top quality. And I feel that if you do that in the Champions League stage, then teams will be coming in for you. I'm not talking about your smaller teams or teams maybe lower down in the Premier League. I'm talking about higher level teams, and I think he's been tremendous for Celtic this season. I hope he can stay, but it might be taken out of Celtic's hands.
He kind of had a bit of the Moussa Dembele's about him in this group stage, and by that I mean, Moussa Dembele was probably the last player we had at the top level Champions League group stage who really kind of excelled. And I know maybe O'Reilly didn't do it quite to the same extent. I know he didn't score, and I actually didn't think he was like brilliant or anything last night, but I'm just talking about those moments of quality. And like I kind of question how we're ever going to make progress in Europe if a quality player like Matt O'Reilly is just sold next summer. Like, I get that we're at the beck and call of whoever comes in for him, the money down south, but like I really hope that when he goes, and I hope that it's not next summer. I'd love him to give us another season on top of this one, and then I think he could move on. But I hope that when he does go, like, we do get proper money for him. I hope we don't kind of undervalue him, because, Jota aside, I do feel like we've undervalued our players a fair bit over the last period. I know the likes of, Starfelt and Yakimakis and Juranovic were a bit older, and didn't have that same kind of sell-on value, and that brought their fee down. But I just think for O'Reilly, you really want to be looking like close to 30 million, like, because genuinely for that quality of player, the age he is, what is he, like 23 or something like that?
So he's young. 23.
And yeah, I mean, he's, as you say, he's going to be probably with Denmark over in Germany in the summer at the Euros, and he's already producing moments of quality. Real moments of quality, with 3 assists in a Champions League campaign for, let's face it, the 4th best team in the group. So I just want to keep a hold of him, and as I say, like, if we really want to be serious about pushing forward, and I'm trying not to laugh as I say that, because Celtic certainly haven't been serious this season, in my opinion, about that, we need to try and hold on to these players. Just a few comments someone was saying, I think, about O'Reilly. Maybe I imagined it. I'll just run through a few comments. Hazel saying, thought Frame looked good when he came on. Would like to see him and some more of the youngsters given game time. They show no fear. Tony also saying, great night. I thought it would have been a subdued night. Mitchell Frame will have a great Christmas with his debut bonus and Champions League win bonus. Jamie saying, great game last night. I think it highlighted that we still need a number 6. And Wanyama ex-player with Iwata being the second choice. Kalmak much better advanced. I thought we did notice a wee change when Iwata went off. I don't know if we can concede that goal if Iwata's on the park. I'd be interested to look at it kind of properly again, because he certainly plays a different role to McGregor. Brown Warrior saying that was a 5 million performance from Liam Scales last night. Liam Scales was really good, wasn't he?
He plays like a man possessed in Europe. I don't even think he gets to those levels domestically, to be honest with you. Unless the Rangers' performance away from home was good from him as well. But he plays. I think he plays, and I was making this point in the post-match show last night, that he plays because he knows he's not got as much time on the ball because he's playing against better attackers. He knows he has to play with a rocket in him, basically. He needs to go a bit faster, and when he has less time to think about it, then I think he's better because it all becomes natural to him. I think his distribution is quite good. He's a good passer of the ball. I thought Welsh's passes on the whole were okay, apart from one that he passed to Matt O'Reilly when he was getting breathed upon by the Feyenoord attacker, and they dispossessed the ball. That could have easily turned into a goal for the opposition. But apart from that, I thought the distribution, both of them, was quite good. Scales showed maturity. I thought they both showed maturity, but Scales even more so. He played like he didn't have imposter syndrome out there, that he belonged on that stage for Celtic last night. And yeah, it's another good performance to go in his collection of good performances in Europe this season. I thought it was tremendous against Atletico Madrid earlier on in the season. At home, I mean, not so much away from home. That's a very different story. And I thought he was really good at home against Lazio and Feyenoord too. So all of his home games he's played in Europe, I think he's been absolutely tremendous for Celtic. It's an interesting position in general for Celtic because they've got so many players in there. I don't think we'll see Nat Phillips again before he goes back to Liverpool in January. I think he will naturally move on. It seems as if he's going to get recalled anyway. That was always going to be the case. Don't think Celtic are going to extend that because it just hurts the players that are permanently there. And then you've still got Nawrowski as well to come back into this team. You get Carter Vickers, who will go back into the team if he's fit on Saturday. He's got to play against Hearts. He's got to play in most games. He's Celtic's best defender. It just all points to who plays alongside him. And there's actually plenty of competition now for places, which is quite weird to say because it's not always been the case for Celtic centre backs. I remember not so long ago, Neil Beaton was playing in the Champions League at centre back. So the fact that Celtic have got so many designated players that can play in that position shows that maybe it has been mismanaged to an extent. The fact that they didn't realise how good Liam Scales was going to be, because Nat Phillips was quite unnecessary looking back on it with how good that Liam Scales has been. But now there's real competition because I thought Welsh was okay last night. I thought he was good actually. Probably might even get man of the match if he'd stayed on for the full 90. Thankfully, Lagerbielke came on and scored the winner. You've got Nawrowski, you've got Carter Vickers, you've got Welsh, you've got Scales. You've got so much depth.
Still there.
Kobayashi as well. I think he'll probably move on in January. He can't get anywhere near the team. I think he'll probably get a loan deal. Probably back to Japan. I would say the same as not Kobayashi, as Ideguchi in that sense. It just hasn't worked out for him. Brendan Rodgers doesn't fancy him, and I think that tie will get severed, whether that's permanently or just on a loan deal. But yeah, there's plenty of competition for those two places. You wonder if Celtic will maybe change the formation. I don't know if they would go at three at the back to accommodate more of their defenders, or they might send out a couple of players on loan. I don't know, but they've got options, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, last night it was Scales and Welsh. I thought they did pretty well. Welsh, I'm kind of happy to have him around the club as some sort of a backup. He obviously ticks that big homegrown box. Sorry, you want to say anything?
He's sorry, it's just because he signed his new 4-year deal. There's not really a chance of him leaving. I don't think he would go out on loan because I think he showed last night that he's more than capable. If he can do that in the domestic front, then he's more than capable option. It could be one of those Ralston options. Potentially, I'd want Greg Taylor to move to the bench for him to be a bench option for a first team pick. If you can have these players that fulfill a quota but can also do a job on the park, then you're dancing basically.
Yeah. Scales, people kind of keep waiting for Scales to fail, and he obviously started really well and kind of had that real surprise factor, and then as time goes on, his form maybe has dipped a little bit as the team's kind of form dipped, and I saw quite a few tweets of people kind of suddenly kind of wanting to discredit him and say, it was just a flash in the pan and he's kind of back to being where he was, and I just think he keeps kind of defying those people. Now, I'm not saying that going forward Liam Scales is going to be or even should be our kind of leading centre back, alongside Carter Vickers, but at the moment it's his place, and I think it's up to Nawrowski to displace him. He's the one I'm really kind of excited about. I think he's got the pedigree that we really wanted to see signed, and I want to see him next to Carter Vickers, but he's got to kind of earn that, whether that's on the training ground or during matches. Lagerbielke, hopefully that's a big moment for him last night, getting that winner. As I said the other day, I'm still to be convinced by him. To me, he looks quite slow in the turn, and I think that would be an issue, but I guess he'll kind of live to fight another day, and he'll probably get another chance now after last night. So that's kind of where I'm at with the centre-backs. Obviously, Carter Vickers is a big player for us. In terms of, Phillips, Kobayashi, I think they'll both kind of leave the club in January. And yeah, I mean, it gives you a bit of confidence last night when you suddenly realise, that we are missing the core of a really successful team over the last couple of seasons. Abada, Maida, Hatate, Carter Vickers, they will significantly improve us when they come back. I think that's pretty much a given. They're four really, really important players. And when you add that, hopefully in January we'll add some quality. I don't think we need 5 or 6 players in January. I think if we get 2 or 3 quality first team additions, a left back being one, possibly a forward another, a midfielder for me, or even a kind of right winger would be the thing. I think that could really raise everyone's levels, and I think if we've got those 4 players coming back, I do feel much more positive about things. It's crazy what a victory does for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely does boost our confidence levels. I agree with you on the transfer front. I think 2 or 3 signings of real quality. If Celtic can put an outlay of about 12, 13 million and put that into 2 or 3 quality players, that'll instantly, forward plan, do your job ahead of next season. Bring these players in, acclimatise them for the second half of the season, give them a cup run, give them a domestic run as well, then they'll be ready for next season as well. If there's a left back available that can fulfil that role, Celtic signed Alistair Johnston in the January transfer window and he walked into the first team. It helps that Juranovic left to go to Union Berlin, but Alistair Johnston, these players are available. If you scout and have a look, I hope that they'll have been scouting for players in the left back position, because it's been noticeable how much they've been struggling. Greg Taylor, I thought, turned it round a tiny bit in the second half last night, but his first half performance left a lot to be desired once again. You seen in the very first move that Feyenoord made in the second half was to launch the ball up to Greg Taylor's side. Teams are sensing that's a weak area for Celtic, and Celtic have got to counteract that by putting a stronger player in that position. Maybe it will be Araujo from Estoril. If the scouting report that's on the Celtic way has anything to say about him, then I think he'd be a tremendous signing for that position. Athletic, tall, knows where the goal is as well, a good crosser of the ball. I think if you put somebody that's more athletic, that's more of a traditional left back, then you'll see everybody up their game as a result in that defence, because I think it's a bit lopsided at the moment in the defence. In terms of other positions, maybe another right winger would be quite good, but these players have got to be available, and I don't want to be making excuses for the board, the scouting team, but it is a difficult window to be doing business in. But if they can find players to improve the first team, like they can't be project players that are brought in January. Any players that are brought in January have to be players that are going to exponentially improve the first team. So if they can find players that can do that and spend a bit more money in doing so, then I think you'll see all the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I've said in the past, I think sometimes it can even be one signing and I'm not saying I only want one signing, but one signing, one new player, one kind of fresh player to add something and stir things up a bit can sometimes just jolt a team into action. I always think of Jeremy Frimpong as being a great example of that kind of season. I think it would have been like 2019-20. We kind of started a little bit slowly, went out of Europe, or went out of the Champions League, etc. And I always remember Frimpong being like a revelation. He made his debut against Partick Thistle, and then like the next 3 or 4 months where like we're basically Celtic were flying, and it was like that infectious personality. I think we saw a similar thing when Kyogo joined the club. Even Aaron Moy last year, when he kind of made his eventual breakthrough and became an important player, I felt that at times he didn't carry the team, but he kind of gave everyone a bit of a boost. So it might just take a bit of that. It might even come from someone like Liel Abada coming back and scoring some big goals, because let's not forget he started pre-season quite well, and there was kind of big hopes for him this season. So I'm excited to see these players back. Just a few things that I'd kind of noted after the game last night. You may or may not care about this, but you'll know I'm obsessed with like coefficient stuff and all of that kind of nonsense. The win means that we'll start next season with a higher coefficient than we started this season. So basically from the 5-year kind of conveyor belt, we've lost a 6 rating from whatever season that would have been. I think maybe 2018-19, and this year a victory last night means we've got 7 points, so we're going to have 32 points at the start of next season. We had 31 this year, so that's good news. The bad news there is that after next season we see our brilliant 2019-2020 season when we topped the Europa League group and beat Lazio home and away. 10 points we got that year, that's going to drop off, so we really need next year to be a strong showing, and next year we'll play 8 league stage matches. The group stage is going 8 matches, whether that be the Champions League or the Europa League, 4 at home and 4 away, and if we win the league we'll guarantee a place in that 36 team Champions League. The final one, and it's quite a strange one, that it's actually the win last night means that it's the most points we've taken from a Champions League group stage since we qualified for the last 16 in 2012-2013. So we got 10 points that year. 2013-14 we got 3 points. 2016-17 3. 2017-18 3. Last season we got 2, and this season we managed a whopping 4 Ryan. I don't know what it really
Double the
says.
points.
It says more about the recent record rather than this season being a great one. I mean, let's not get it wrong. 4 points is still, for me, totally pathetic. 4 out of 18? Nah, we need to be doing better than that. But it does tell me that maybe with a bit more quality and maybe with the team growing and all of that stuff, maybe like 7 points, maybe 9 points is doable, and that would probably be enough to get us. No, because it's all changing next year. So I'm talking nonsense. I'm talking absolutely nonsense. It's all changing next year. So I don't know. I don't know what the new barometer will be. Maybe how many points do you think you'll need from 8 matches to get through to the next stage? Maybe something like 10.
The thing is, there's only a few teams that actually get knocked out straight away because it goes into a playoff situation as well.
12 get knocked out, so 24 of the 36 go. So I reckon double digits.
Yeah.
We'll see.
The good thing is you don't know who you're playing against as well. It's going to be quite exciting in that way. It is more like a King of the Ring tournament, basically. You know, it's a great tournament. I think it's going to be so exciting on all levels because it's happening in the Conference League as well. You know, all three have got the same format. I think it's going to give some rejuvenation to the competition, especially in that initial stage, because I think the group stage is a bit tired now, that format. It seems as if the real good football begins in the knockout ties. Unfortunately for Celtic, we don't really get to that position, but it's going to be good to see teams go off against each other, you know, different fixtures happening. You know, you're not playing a team home and away. You might get one team at home and then another team away. It's exciting in that regard. But anybody that's played Football Manager will know all about it. Know that it changes everything, basically. And the whole argument of Europe after Christmas is futile now because there's 2 fixtures after Christmas in that initial stage. So there will be football after Christmas regardless because you've got those 2 other games.
All joking aside, I mean, like, I loved last night. I've not loved the Champions League games because they've been difficult watches and frustrating at times. But I love watching matches where all the opposition come and take the game to us, and that's why I loved last night's game. And it just got me thinking, like, more European football for me is definitely a good thing because that's the only way we're going to. The more European football there is,
exposure.
The easier a sell Celtic are, because you look at us as a club and we've got so much going for us. The one big negative we've got is we play in Scotland, and that's not enticing to, certainly, big name players. So the more European football we get, whether it goes up to 10, probably that'd be the next step. Maybe it's like a European Super League. I certainly would be for that because I want to see Celtic tested. I want to see us playing against the best teams we can, and it's great. The other thing, the 8 matches next year, whether it's Champions League or Europa League, 2 of the matches are against pot 4 teams, even if we find ourselves in pot 4. So in theory, obviously this year we couldn't play a pot 4 team in the Champions League, whereas next year we will play pot 4 teams as well as pot 3, pot 2 and pot 1. So in theory the 2 extra matches should be winnable. I mean, I say that Newcastle were a pot 4 team this year, and they're probably pretty decent, even though they got the same amount of points or maybe one more. But
I know they're a pot 1 team as well, so
first time we've beaten a pot 1 team since Barcelona in 2012. But it's all exciting. Yeah, I think we'll finish there. Tomorrow we'll chat ahead of the game against Hearts, which is actually coming up pretty fast, isn't it? Saturday afternoon for you guys, so that's a big game. But we're feeling a bit more positive, Ryan, and the chat's been a wee bit more positive as well. And I'm not blaming you for recent times, because it's been a struggle, and it's a struggle for both of us. But hopefully last night was the start of a bit of a fight back from this Celtic team. We've got big players to come back. We're hopefully going to add some players in key positions in January, all things being well. So there's positivity there. Right, we're going to head. Ryan, thanks again for your time. Thanks for everyone for tuning in, watching afterwards, commenting in the chat. Give us a big sub as well. A big subscription would be much appreciated. I think we're over 8,000 now. Right, thanks everyone. Speak to you soon.